Hi everyone, and welcome to this special interest group on AI and digital preservation. This is David Portman from the marketing team. We'll be starting today's presentation in around about 30 seconds, just waiting for a few more folks to join. It's quite a large crowd on today, so you will be in a muted state. Through the presentation and through the SIG, you'll get the opportunity to interact, and you can raise a hand within the GoToWebinar toolbar if you'd like to speak. And of course, there's the chat section as well to contribute. And you'll be prompted as we go through this session today by the host, Peter Anderton. So we'll just give it, as I said, 20-30 seconds, and then Peter will get us going with today's event. Enjoy.
It's an informal session. I'm going to go through the agenda here and quite quickly I hope get to the demos of where we've got to, and also getting your input, your requirements, your comments on it. Now, as David said in the quick introduction he did, there will be some polls. We will ask some formal questions on the call to get your input to start shaping the discussion. And at the end of the session, well, actually at the end of the session, we'll have questions and answers, a discussion. We'll have the chance to open some of the microphones. And after the session, we will be sending a survey out to get more information. As you know, perhaps you've digested this, or perhaps you didn't get a chance to put your thoughts and questions forward. So agenda will be introducing the 2 or 3 speakers we're going to get, and I'll explain why it might be 3, what our objectives are, talk about the demo, after putting it in context, and then discussions, and then because it's to garner input and participation, what will the next stage be? Where do we go next? So I'm Peter Anderton, I'm VP of Product Strategy, and I'm honoured to be joined by Jack O'Sullivan, a senior engineer in the innovation team, been doing this work, leading the proof of concepts we've been working. And the third voice you might hear is John Tilbury, our founder and CIO, the Chief Innovation Officer. So these are 2 members. In fact, myself as the 3rd member of the Innovation and Digital Preservation team. So welcome to the session. Just a quick update on where Preservica is. We're currently making the biggest investment we've ever made in product in our history. We've been growing the team and bringing more people on and putting more effort into the product. Our focus has been on making it powerful, automated, so we'll talk quickly about automated digital preservation, and simple, so we'll talk very quickly about the new generation interface, and I know there's a webinar. And this is part of our continuing leadership in digital preservation. So to give you in context, we're now over 110 people, and 85 of those are in engineering, product development, operations, customer support teams in actually making the software and making the software work. And then we're supported by the people to the right of the diagram there. So as you know, at the heart of what we do is the platform. Every Preservica product is based on the Preservica platform, and it's about security and access to the right people to the content. It's a Preservica platform. It's supported by APIs, and we have different areas where we're looking at. So starting at the top of this wheel in terms of content transfer, you'll have seen that drag and drop in the new generation interface, and all our cloud users can now sign on for dual running for dragging and dropping and remote contributors, submissions, we call it, to get content in. So we've been doing a lot of work in that area. We've got embedded preservation. So Preserve 365 is now out, and there'll be a big webinar next week. If you want to get involved in that, just email any one of us, peter.anderton@Preservica, and I'll make sure you get registered. And as part of that, we've been working on multi-part asset preservation. A lot of the work we did in version 6, coming up with a new data model, was about multi-part assets, and including the contextual metadata in the preservation as well for Preserve 365 is vital. Working around the wheel here, automated digital preservation. We are already doing automated recharacterization on cloud systems to check some of the file formats and against the latest pronom, making sure we're up to date. And we're working very quickly towards having automated migration. So identify, characterize, and then remigrate if your rules have changed or the identification has changed or the period coming back from pronoun has been updated. And then the subject of today is AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, knowledge-based systems, large language models and such. And there are enormous investments and enormous advances in artificial intelligence, many of which are coming into the digital preservation domain. And that's the subject of today's discussion. So looking at AI for digital preservation, we're seeing various areas, various categories of where AI, machine learning, knowledge-based systems can fit. The first is the gateway, getting things into the product. So defining what is permitted into the product. Now, it's Preservica's philosophy that before the system is before the system. So there are many AI systems which will help you enrich keystone focus content before it comes into the product. Once in the product, there's the idea of creating new enriched metadata. Now, this is a wide range of products out there which will do transcription using AI, OCR, handwritten text, it will translate, a lot of metadata enrichment. Also, as part of AI, you might want to create a new redacted version, want a better word, of the asset or the object. You might want to create new assets from the existing assets and so on. So they could be, for example, we'll talk about redaction in a little bit, PII, identification of personal information, and black banding that. And if you black band an asset, if you block out words in an asset, it's a new asset. If you send something out to the building with the redacted bands on it, it becomes a record and is a new asset. So we'll come back to the new asset linked to the original. Also, perhaps the biggest waves in AI are being made by generative AI. And what we're finding, there's great possibilities there. We've been investigating or looking into on summarizing metadata groups, different ways of using generative AI to find information, and then of course searching, finding aids, finding new content, and augmenting this 3D ledger, if you like, the file system or the folder structure that we have in a preservation system. There might be new ways of finding information in there. So we're going to go to a poll quite early on, I know, but where are you in your AI journey? Just to set things in context. So you should be getting a poll coming up on your screen. So can people see that poll? David, are you on that?
Yeah, the poll is showing, Peter. It's just probably not showing for you. Right. So we just give it another 10, 20 seconds, people to respond, and then I'll push those live. And Peter, if you want to see the responses coming in, there's a poll tab on your GoToWebinar toolbar.
Okay,
I've just shared the results. Can you see that, Peter?
So here we have, so over two thirds of people are currently evaluating. So that's great news. So we've got a lot to learn from everybody here. Quarter have used and plan to continue. It's great news that nobody has actually used it and will not continue. So I guess it's a self-selection group and they wouldn't have turned up for the webinar. And 6% are running a pilot. So that's great. Now, only 81% of you voted. So I'm going to prompt you to get a few more people voting next time if we can. But that's great to know that so many of you are currently evaluating running pilots. So it's 75%, 3/4 are running a pilot at the moment. So that's great to know. And another poll, what AI tools interest you the most? So looking at the different areas of what AI can do, what is the most, what's your number one? Now, can everybody see the results? Is that shared to people, or do I have to talk through it?
I'm just giving people a bit longer, Peter, because yeah, we're up to 80% voted now. So let me just share the results.
Okay, 83%, a couple more of you in. So 3/4 transcription, just over half image-based search, 70% OCR, just about 70%, just under a third of describing scans, and just over a third is virtual collections, so linking content, grouping it together for further work. So that's really useful. Thank you for those. So moving on, another research we've been doing is, this is one example, where in local government or where are users looking at AI for the application, not what tool are they using or what are they trying to do, but where are they looking to use it. And you can see the biggest of this sample, 16%, was decisions committees analysing those. Engineering, CAD/CAM and building designs, building maintenance make about 30% there. 14% policies, board minutes, planning, contracts, articles and bylaws, finance budgets, and so on, all the way down to personnel files and medical files, which brings in the spectrum PHI, personal health information, and private information, personally identifiable information. So this is a local and state government survey, which I thought I'd just share with you. So currently in our proof of concept, which I'll be handing over to Jack in a few seconds to take you through, at the moment we're using webhooks. So this is for API users on the Enterprise Edition who can use APIs. And it's triggered from Preservica. It calls out to an external script, which links to any available AI or machine learning or specialist tool, and passes information back. So this allows us to do best of breed integration to any external product, PII, redaction, facial recognition, scene description, translation, OCR, transcription, bottom of my list, but top of your list, and any AI knowledge-based system. And just to talk quickly about how that works within the product. So within Preservica, there's a trigger, and the trigger is currently on ingest, but could be as a background process or on request or a scheduled process. Something happens in the product and it calls out to the external system, and it calls out with the identifier of the point in the hierarchy or the actual asset, and sends to the endpoint that is pertinent to that action request. That then calls back into Preservica using the API, using the UUID and the credentials, which have also been passed to the system. Preservica feeds the information for processing, and then the content comes back. The content could be processed assets. It could be a new redacted asset. It could be a new content object. and in the first instance is updated new metadata. So where are we on the focus group and the proof of concept? We have a standalone framework application, so we've built the framework. We've got 3 proof of concepts now, so already this is out of date. We'll be showing 2 today. And we've documented the framework for the APIs. We've documented how we add new tool integrations, and we've got the demonstrations we'll be showing today. And what we want to do is get the feedback and the learning from you as we go forward as well. So looking forward to getting your feedback on this. And with this, I'd like to pass over to Jack from the innovation team.
Hi, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so we've got a couple of video demos here for the POC work that we've already undertaken. So this first one is very much a metadata enrichment demonstration. So what we're going to be seeing is using an AI tool to automatically detect PII metadata within text-based documents. And then the second video will be metadata enrichment, but with a feedback loop. So it's looking at image object detection and being able to actually correct the decisions that the AI tool made and update them. So Peter, if you want to press play on this one, we can have a look at this first video. So what we are seeing here is I've got a PDF document that is text-based in my Windows environment, and there's plenty of personally identifiable information in there. There's names, addresses. It's a court record document, so you're expecting to find PII there. Peter, is the video paused? So what I'm going to do now is just ingest that into Preservica. So I'm just using the drag and drop method of ingesting, so that uploads the PDF file and then goes through the standard Preservica ingest process. So it goes through characterization, virus checking, and then actually ingests the content. And at the end of the ingest, it fires off a webhook notification that says that a new piece of content has been ingested into Preservica. And the AI tool that we've written is listening for that webhook, and it will look to see what the content is. And we can see when it's first ingested, we can render it within Preservica. We can see some very basic descriptive metadata. There's no extended metadata because all I did was drop the file in. But because it's a document, our AI tool will know, actually, I can get some text from that and I can run PII detection. So it does that in the background and then posts back some metadata that we got out of the tool. So what you can see there is the text from the PDF with all the PII data redacted, and then a list of the things that it redacted and why it redacted them. So we can see there are names there that identify people. It's possibly slightly aggressive because it identifies things like the court and the word defendant as types of people. Those are probably not personally sensitive terms, but it's proving the point that it's identified the data and it's given us some enriched metadata about that document. So if we want to move on to the next video, this is going to work in a fairly similar way. You can press play on this as well, Peter. So what we're going to do here is ingest some images. So I've got a collection of images that are taken from various social media posts from Preservica. So it's pictures of us at various events over the years. And we're going to run it through Microsoft's Azure object recognition as the AI tool. And on top of that, we've built a custom model for the AI to be able to detect the Preservica logo. So the base Microsoft tool is very good at doing things like recognizing people, recognizing common objects. It's not so good at, well, it's not able to recognize things that are not that, it's not specifically trained to look for. So something like the Preservica logo, it's not going to know how to recognize that until we build a custom model and tell it. So we're going through the same process. We're ingesting into Preservica. When we do that, we get files with very basic metadata. We've done some characterization, so we know it's a JPEG. We know some basic technical details about it. We can render it. But we don't have very much descriptive metadata. Upon ingest, Preservica is triggering a webhook to say these things got ingested. Our AI tool is picking up that notification. It's seeing that they're images. It knows that it's got an AI image tool. So it sends the images through this AI image tool. And what will happen eventually is that it will send back the metadata that we get out of that image tool. And what we'll see when that has happened is that when we go back into the descriptive metadata for one of these images, which should be happening now, we get some image classification metadata, so we can see it's generated a caption for what it thinks is happening in the image. And it's detected a whole bunch of Preservica logos, and it's detected some other things as well. But it also tells us where it detected these. So now when we render, we can actually see what it's found. So all the things that are highlighted in red, those are coming from the base Microsoft tool. All the things that are in blue are coming from our custom model that is telling it to look for Preservica logos. And so we could see there that it did a pretty good job of recognizing the person. It was less successful at recognizing Preservica's logo. So it is somewhat overmatching there. It's matching the faces of the two people in that photograph. It's matching the plug on the wall. It is actually matching the Preservica logo, but it's clearly overmatching in other places. So the shoes there, it thinks are Preservica logos. It's basically seeing Preservica everywhere. And the reason for that is that the model that we used had very little training data in it. So I only used a sample of a very small number of images. And I was highlighting where the Preservica logo was in those images. But the common object is going to be working on a data set of thousands. For this one, it was working on a data set of maybe 7, 8 images. But what we can do is go in and see all of those things that it's detected as Preservica logos. I think the video's stopped or cut out there, Peter, if you've got control of that. I want to jump along. Do you want to jump it along a bit, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so about here will do. So what we can do is start to update these results. So we can clear all of the boxes that it had labeled before as being logos, and we can draw our boxes around where we think the logos actually are. So I'm going to ignore the 2 very small ones on the bottles and the very small one on that poster. And I'm going to update our data set. And this is just generating some annotations that tell the data set where the logos are. And so that updates the data set that we're using. And we can then use that to train a new custom model based on a bit more training data. And in practice, this process takes something like an hour to run. So we're going to cheat a little bit in this video and skip straight to the point where the model has been fully trained. And it will switch then which model it's using when our tool runs again the next time. And we can demonstrate that this is working by re-ingesting some of that same content. And hopefully what we'll see is some improved results for it detecting the Preservica logo. So I'm just going to go through the same process again. I'm going to re-ingest a couple of the images. And it will do the same thing. Preservica, when these images finish ingesting, will fire off a notification. Our proof of concept tool will receive that notification. It will see that those are images and that it knows something about. So it will send those images to the Microsoft tool, but this time using the new model that we've just trained with our improvements. And what we'll get is hopefully some slightly different results. So I have to clear all of these notifications. And again, when it first ingests, there's no metadata, but eventually the tool will be called. And now I can render this document, and this image, you can start to see that some of the things that it was previously picking up erroneously as Preservica logos, it's no longer matching. It's still over-matching, but we're still only using a fairly small sample size. We can see it's still matching faces, but not the wall socket over there. So what we're showing there is a feedback loop that is improving the performance of our AI classifier that we're using, sort of all bundled into Preservica.
Thanks, Jack. So, last few minutes remaining. Next steps. So, we had a survey earlier where we asked people how to get involved, and there will be a survey coming out to you with questions such as this, which is, do we just keep you informed? Do you want to attend more of these special interest group meetings and in fact get further into the detail? Would you like to talk on the special interest group? We had some take up on this from our Dutch users, and would love to feed that back to everybody else. So we'll be taking you up on that, but we'll be asking everybody if they want to share, especially as 2/3 of you are doing something with AI. And do you want to go forward actually helping us, by using AI and sharing the experiences between us? So that'll be all part of the survey. How would you like to get involved? And say, is it knowledge sharing? Is it us? Is it you sharing the information? Let's work as a special interest group. Where can we collaborate? And there will be a forthcoming SIG, special interest group. Being in IT, we do like calling it 3-letter abbreviations. And this SIG will be on PI and redaction. How do we go from a document and make it a confidential document, as John says, linked, but an asset in its own right? And the survey will be on its way to you today or tomorrow. And one of the questions will be, which of these do you want to, get involved in, and how do we best work to get that?